Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us. We're going to get started. My name is Saqib Bhatti, and I'm the co-executive director of the Action Center on Race and the Economy. I want to give a huge welcome to everyone. We're here today because our democracy has been under attack by armed white supremacists, thanks to wealthy corporations that support, bankroll, and enable racist politicians and are furthering the rise of fascism. Amazon, Blackstone, Fidelity, and Google are not only complicit in last Wednesday's attempted coup, they're responsible. It's time to hold these corporations accountable. This morning, we sent an initial round of letters to 30 public pension funds in the US and Canada, 20 universities with large endowments, and 18 of the largest foundations in the US, calling on them to cut ties with Amazon, Blackstone, Fidelity, and Google. You'll be able to find these letters online later today at stopfundingfascism.org. On this call today, we have speakers who are calling for these four corporations to stop providing platforms and financial resources to white supremacists and fascists. We want them to take their money out of politics, to stop helping hate groups fundraise, and to stop giving megaphones to every neo-Nazi with a conspiracy theory. Your lines are muted, but as we move to questions, we'll be able to unmute them. If you have any questions that you're unable to ask here, or if you want to get in touch with a particular group, please email our communications partners at acre@megaphonestrategies.com, and they will route you to the correct person. Please note that we're recording this call to share with people who weren't able to join us in person. So first, to kick us off with Sasha Hammad from Athena.
Hi, thanks everybody. Thanks for having me today. I'm an organizer for Athena, which is a national coalition of over 50 organizations. And what we do is we support the leadership of Amazon workers organizing for a voice in the company. We organize for environmental justice and campaign for accountability to local communities where Amazon operates. We expose how Amazon profits from the invasive and racist surveillance of communities of color. And we work with independent businesses to change public policies that have enabled the consolidation of Amazon's power. We believe that Amazon's concentration of corporate power, their role in the surveillance of Black and Brown communities, fossil fuel emissions in communities of color, extraction of local dollars and displacement of communities, and the firing of whistleblowers and model of dangerous and unsustainable working conditions are all impediments to a functioning, equitable democracy. So that's why we're here today. So for years, we've known that the white supremacist and fascist groups behind the January 6th attack have been on the rise. Their growing numbers are no secret, and in fact, many corporations are complicit in enabling their growth. Many white supremacists and alt-right groups rely on Amazon Web Services to host their websites, which enables these groups to generate revenue by selling misogynist, anti-Black, anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, and anti-LGBTQ merchandise and propaganda, and by streaming hate-core music on Amazon's platforms. Amazon also has a self-publishing arm, Kindle Direct Publishing, which provides a publishing and distribution platform to racist and violent ideologues to validate and disseminate their views widely. They also create funding streams for hate groups by letting customers on their marketplace donate a portion of the proceeds from their purchases to these hate groups through the Amazon Smile program. And as we all learned last week, or early this week, Amazon has allowed conspiracy theorists to use AWS to power Parler, which hate groups have exploited to spread their lies and recruit new forces. So when Amazon decided to remove Parler from AWS, it was not an act of courage. It was a business calculation and a public relations tactic. Amazon has known that Parler was rife with racism and hate speech well before January 6th, and their decision to take action on Parler only at this stage only underlines how Amazon refuses to intervene until after an act of violence. So with that, we know that there is so much more that Amazon can do to fight white supremacy, and we're calling on Amazon to take the following actions. So one, remove the websites of all white supremacist hate groups and the campaign websites of all politicians who have incited, enabled, or supported last week's insurrection from Amazon Web Services. adopt and proactively enforce policies to prevent vendors from selling, publishing, or streaming white supremacist, misogynist, anti-Black, anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic, anti-immigrant, and anti-LGBTQ merchandise, propaganda, or music on Amazon's platforms, and to stop donating money to hate groups through Amazon Smile. Amazon has a very simple choice before them. It can provide platforms for hate and authoritarianism to grow, or take decisive action to protect our democracy. Because corporations like Amazon have so much power in our lives, their decisions have profound implications on the future direction of our country. So this is not the time for halfway measures. Every person in the US should expect more substance and less spin from institutions like Amazon.
Thank you, Sasha. Next, we'll hear from Maurice BP Weeks from the Action Center on Race and the Economy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maurice. I'm the co-executive director and co-founder of the Action Center on Race and the Economy, or ACRE, and here to talk a little bit about why Google is one of the companies that we're targeting with today's actions. So Google owns YouTube, which is a key propagation tool of white supremacist and fascist movements and violence worldwide. Just last month, the New Zealand government's investigation into Christchurch mosque shootings in 2019 found that YouTube was a significant source of information and inspiration for the white supremacist shooter. YouTube's autoplay algorithm is designed to push more and more extreme content onto users, promoting white supremacist, alt-right, and fascist messaging. Right-wing content creators have been able to manipulate the algorithm and create an echo chamber that can take viewers down a deep rabbit hole of radicalization. The algorithm has been shown to be a gateway to far-right ideology for young people in particular. YouTube also enables bigots to raise money by monetizing their videos. In fact, supporters of last week's attack on the US Capitol are using YouTube to raise money right now off live video footage that they took from the insurrection. Even though other major social networks quickly shut down Trump's accounts after the insurrection, YouTube has still not taken down his channel. And yesterday, YouTube announced that it would temporarily prevent him from posting, but viewers can still access his videos, including videos he has posted since the Capitol invasion. So as one of the wealthiest, most technologically sophisticated corporations in the history of the world, we don't believe for 1 minute that Google is unable to prevent white supremacists and fascists from using YouTube to grow their ranks. It's rather that Google is unwilling to, and that poses a real threat and problem for our democracy. For that reason, we're calling on Google to deplatform content and content creators from YouTube that incite white supremacists or insurrectionist violence, promote or glorify white supremacist hate groups, or monetize or fundraise off videos of the insurrection, and to remove from YouTube the personal and campaign channels of all politicians who incited, enabled, or supported the insurrection, or voted to overturn the results of the Democratic 2020 presidential election.
Thank you, Maurice. Next, we'll hear from Fatima Ahmed from the Muslim Justice League and the Unmasking Fidelity Coalition.
Hello, I'm Fatima. I am Executive Director of the Muslim Justice League based in Boston, Massachusetts. We focus on uprooting white supremacy at a systemic level. We focus on dismantling white supremacy by organizing, against law enforcement, against the FBI. And that is so deeply connected to what we've seen here with the Capitol attack. Our Unmasking Fidelity Coalition includes Muslim Justice League, Asian American Resource Workshop, Community Labor United, Resource Generation, and Political Research Associates. And we've been demanding that Fidelity, which is headquartered here in Boston, filter out white supremacist groups from the supposed charitable donations that are funneled through their charitable arm, Fidelity Charitable. I know that's a lot of words, so I'm going to break that down for you. Fidelity Investments is headquartered here in Massachusetts, but their charitable arm, which people don't know about, is actually the largest charity in the country. And through their donor-advised funds, millions of dollars are going to institutions that not only spew incredibly racist rhetoric, but they fuel these movements. They create the policies that lead white supremacy and create, the environment that led to this Capitol attack. I am proud to live in a city like Boston, which is actually majority people of color, and also incredibly disappointed that an institution like Fidelity gets to call Boston home and watch our communities of color be decimated by white supremacy and be decimated by the finances and the massive amounts of funding that are going through their charitable arm. I also personally happen to grow up in a much smaller place. I grew up living down the streets from neo-Nazis. I grew up in a place where the KKK regularly met, and I have faced this kind of violence in a very personal way and at a personal level. And I know that all of these individuals who are showing up in these ways and committing acts of violence, like we just saw with the Capitol attack, like we've seen with Christchurch and Charlottesville and so many other places, are all doing so because of this system that is fueled by institutions like Fidelity. Fidelity knows our demands. They've met with us in the past and decided to continue with the system, with what they have in place, rather than putting in a filter for these groups. So we demand again that they meet with us and that they take the lead from their local community groups in stopping their funding of fascism.
Thank you, Fatima. Really powerful story. Next, we'll hear from Anna Fink from the Amalgamated Foundation and the Hate is Not Charitable campaign.
Thank you, Saqib. I'm Anna Fink. I'm the Executive Director of the Amalgamated Foundation. We're a donor-advised fund provider and philanthropic partner for social change. In 2019, the Amalgamated Foundation launched the Hate is Not Charitable campaign, inviting colleagues in philanthropy and individuals with donor-advised funds to join us in defunding hate, and particularly based on the information that had come out that Fatima just referred to regarding donations to hate groups that have been funneled through donor-advised fund providers such as Fidelity. With over 100 signers on this campaign and representing over $3 billion in assets at this point, the campaign has sent a powerful message to massive financial institutions that hold the vast majority of donor-advised funds in this country and sparked actions across philanthropy. Every foundation has an obligation and in fact discretion under the law to determine charitable standards based on its own values. And today we join calling on Fidelity and others to join us in our commitment to implementing policies and procedures within each of our institutions to ensure that no more charitable dollars flow to hate groups. As we think about the high costs that hate creates for our society, let's ensure that at the very least, it is not being subsidized by tax-free dollars that are meant to serve a charitable purpose for the public good. We call upon corporations of conscience to stop funding the politics of hate and instead invest those dollars in rebuilding and expanding our democracy. Let's recommit to rebuilding our democracy and our institutions to ensure that it is not our children, our communities, and our democracy, but ultimately it's those violators and instigators who pay the price. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Next, we'll hear from Ricardo Valadez from Americans for Financial Reform.
Thanks, Saqib, and thanks for having me. And apologies again for my camera, but I'm happy to be here. Americans for Financial Reform is a nonpartisan and nonprofit coalition of more than 200 civil rights, consumer, labor, business, investor, faith-based, and civic and community groups. Formed in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, we're working to lay the foundation for a strong, stable, and ethical financial system, one that serves the economy and the nation as a whole. And part of that work includes calling out Wall Street's detrimental influences on our political system. So that's why we're here today. The seditionists who led last week's insurrection are actively planning further armed demonstrations at the US Capitol and all 50 state capitals in the days leading up to the presidential inauguration next week. Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman and the Blackstone Group have played a critical role in supporting Donald Trump, his enablers, and the racist strain of American politics that we all find so repugnant. Schwarzman has been one of President Trump's strongest supporters and probably one of his closest advisors on Wall Street. Blackstone's affiliates have donated more than $67 million to Republicans since the 2016 election cycle, including more than $329,000 this past election cycle to the 147 members of Congress who voted against certifying all of the electoral votes from the 2020 presidential election. Schwarzman personally donated $3 million to a PAC supporting President Trump's 2020 campaign and nearly $25 million to other Republican candidates and PACs in the 2020 election. Following the election, Schwarzman participated in a CEO conference call where he defended Trump's right to challenge the election results, took issue with suggestions that the US could face a coup attempt, and promoted one of President Trump's unfounded conspiracy theories, questioning how the vote count in Pennsylvania shifted in Biden's favor. Schwarzman also gave money to a super PAC that supported Republican candidates in Georgia after it became clear that Trump would dispute the results of the election. Those candidates also had planned to object to certifying the results before they were defeated in their runoff election. We demand that Blackstone suspend all campaign contributions to the Republican Party, its associated entities, and all Republican candidates until every Republican member of Congress who incited, enabled, and supported the insurrection or voted against certifying all the electoral votes from the 2020 election are held to account and removed from office. Thank you.
Thank you, Ricardo. That is our prepared program. We're open for any questions. You can unmute your lines and if you have any questions. Okay, so seeing none. Also, thanks everyone for joining us. Again, the letters that we sent out this morning will be available later today at stopfundingfascism.org. If you have any further questions later on or would like to schedule follow-up interviews with any of the speakers, please email acre@megaphonestrategies.com. Thanks, take care.
Thanks, Saqib. Thank you, everyone.